Example of being in the middle of the city. This is Norman Creek, East Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. So we have all this kind of vegetation here, and you see underneath there's all kinds of tunnels and pathways, all kinds of stuff here. So I saw a fox here. So you see the creek's here. That's quite a distance. So there was a fox in here. I disturbed the fox, made sure that it got away, got over to the other side of the creek there, and then I let the dogs out. And now this is what we get. So there's scent. Elvis is also looking at birds. He loves birds, particularly sparrows, because they come down low. It's good sport. But this is how you can do it. So we're in the middle of the creek. Now over on the other side of the creek there is a Crown Common land. Over there is a Crown Common land. Over on the other side is a Crown Common land. So we have two forks. See that fork there? There's another fork just up there as well, and then it goes down further and it forks again on both of these strands here. It forks again. So there's a lot of land around where foxes, rabbits, feral cats, rats, that's just within the city, but also you get then pigs, hares, and even deer out in the western suburbs of Brisbane. This is the kind of area that they live in, that they thrive in, and it's how they move through the city, because you have a riparian zone on either side, you see. So if we just observe Zine here. When I rehabilitate other people's dogs that are going crazy in suburban backyards and in apartment blocks, then I teach a few commands. But these dogs, I don't have any commands for hunting, for being onto it, because they are so much that. They are so much a hunting dog already, you know. So the commands are to call them off. Now this here, what you're seeing right here, between these two dogs here, this is a stimulation that you need to do for hunting dogs. If you want to have a terrier or a dachshund, and you want to live in the city, you need to bring them to places like this and engage them in this kind of activity. So the sniffing, the searching, seeking, getting in underneath, looking around. For all intents and purposes, these dogs are hunting. There's nothing here to hunt except for rats. But foxes do pass through this area. And if we follow down along that line of creek there, then there's some chooks in the backyards. And there was remnants a few weeks ago of a chook down here, so I came to have a look here. And I did see a fox. I don't think it lives here. I disturbed it. From where I was positioned, I was able to disturb it and watch it. I knew it was only going to go sort of one direction, up that way, there, and then I watched it get across the creek and then disappear into that common land. It's gone. So then I let the dogs out of the car and they pick up the scent. But then they also pick up the scent of all kinds of other stuff. Plus there's been a lot of rain, so it sort of floods in this area and then sweeps down through. So you get all this, and the tide comes up this high as well, but you get a lot of rubbish on the other side there, sort of flooding through into here as well. So we come and we pick up this rubbish. We're going to pick this rubbish up. I'll go get a garbage bag out of the car and I'll take away all this rubbish. So that's the other thing we're doing, is conservation. A lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people don't have the ability to understand, or the will to understand. But that's what this is about. So now these dogs will respond to my command, particularly this one. See, her tail's docked. So she was a working dog in Victoria for 2.5 years before I got her, going down a foxhole. That dog there will go down a foxhole, find a mother fox with 4 cubs underneath the ground, and that will be a nasty fight, and she will win. by herself under the ground. Okay, so that's the kind of dogs that they are. See that? That's the kind of activity they need to engage in. They need to go in underneath stuff. They need to get in between. You need to bring them somewhere where they're allowed to make a bit of noise as well. So all the Crown land. Again, back of industrial estate. It's an industrial building, another industrial building. And then we have the parkland. And then there's industrial buildings up around the corner there. So there's a lot of space behind the industrial buildings that are completely neglected. See all this asparagus vine? That's a noxious weed. That's a Brisbane City Council gazetted noxious weed. Takes over the whole place. It holds the place together, holds the soil together, but it is an incredibly nasty vine. And see how it's just holding everything there, and it's got these really horrible. So this here, this here, this here, all of that, all of that, all of that is all the same vine, and all of that spreads around, and it's really noxious. So we get in here underneath all of this, and then we also come back and we'll clean this up. I've mowed this back with a whippersnipper quite a few times before, just for the preservation, so that we're not having it overgrown with weeds that are full of thorns. But you see how this asparagus vine just overgrows. Makes it beautiful. It's very beautiful to see, and it's all nice and green. But you see, just look how it overruns everything. Like everything, it overruns everything. But here we go. So you see, you can get underneath there. You can get underneath there. We can get underneath there. We can get underneath. See, we can get underneath. Underneath. And then we've got these kind of paths. So this is good. But when you're getting in to this kind of stuff here, see, there's all this room here. See all that room in there? This is where they thrive. So if there was to be a rabbit warren or a fox den, for instance, in this kind of environment, or feral cats, it's going to be in there. Something like that. Prime. Otherwise, next to big drains, infrastructure, they like to get in and burrow down underneath, get to the side, underneath the concrete. And this is a good thing. See, they get excited, they make all this noise, so they scare anything around away. And so this is just a representation. See, I haven't even moved more than 10 meters. And it's showing such fantastic terrain and environment. See, everywhere, just here. Just all of this. This is all you need to do. You got dachshunds, you got terriers. Dachshunds and Jack Russells are the most driven by prey. Sorry, they're most driven by their prey drive, and they've got it in them to engage and to kill. If they pick up the scent of something, or if they lay eyes on something, then they're fixated on that. They're focused. Okay, so the difference between focus, when doing drug rehabilitation work, for instance, is saying we've got focus and then we've got fixation. So fixation is the opposite of focus. So we've got focus, we've got something to be focused on. All faculties are focused. If we don't have anything to focus on, or we lose focus because we don't have the strength of mind, we start to fixate. Consciousness loops back on itself, back on itself, back on itself, back on itself. That's what psychosis is called, when consciousness loops back on itself. So when someone's in a state where the consciousness is looping back on itself, 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 that's psychotic. That's a psychotic state of being. And the behavior that someone whose consciousness is looping back on itself, back on itself, back on itself, back on itself, is going to be psychotic behavior, because they are in a psychosis. And it is exactly the same for these incredibly intelligent, incredibly stubborn, because that's tied in with the intelligence, incredibly loyal, devoted, capable, and connected earth hunting dogs. So this is a Paterjack Stafhound Bull Terrier. That there is a Patterdale Terrier. So over here we have the two parents, if we can catch them in the same place. See their focus here? So the mother there on the right, the red collar, is Patterdale Terrier, whose great-grandmother was a Jack Russell. That's why I say the purebred Paterjack Stafhound Bull Terrier is because she is a purebred Patterdale Terrier, but the breeder that I got her off bought her mother off another breeder and then had the dog transported. And when the dog arrived, he rung up that breeder that he paid to have that dog delivered, and with papers, as a purebred Patterdale Terrier, and he said, "I think this dog's got some Jack Russell in it." And the other breeder says, "Oh yeah, I think her grandmother might have been a Jack Russell." So that's what the papers mean. Elvis, the father, is a miniature short-haired dachshund over a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. His great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was a Maltese Terrier that mated with a standard short-haired dachshund. That was the son of a Maltese that mated with a standard short-haired dachshund, that then mated with a miniature short-haired dachshund. And all the way down the line, on the father's side, is then miniature short-haired dachshund. On the mother's side, it is Staffordshire Bull Terrier. So a DNA test means something. You see little Bon Scott go flying past then. So this is Mum here, this is Razzle. This is Xena, who just deposed herself. So they've had 5 nasty fights. They've had 2 fights previously where Razzle kind of won. It's like a stalemate that Xena just accepted, but Razzle kind of won. That was 9 months ago. But now, 7 days ago, Xena decided to just make sure Razzle knew her place underneath Xena as a matriarch. Razzle snapped back and they had a fight. Whereas they previously had 2 fights that, and just let it happen, just watch it, make sure it doesn't get too severe, and not a mark on them, because they're just holding onto each other's cheek or ears. In this case then, Razzle has grown a bit older, and she just still does have her pups, which are now 13 weeks old, and sorry, they come to 14 weeks tomorrow. So it turned into a bit of a nasty fight. So then Xena started 3. So the third one was broken up. Wasn't going to let it happen because she was already injured. She started another fight. She lost, and she's already injured. Started another fight, so she lost. But I broke that one up. So that was 7 days ago, then 6 days ago, then 5 days ago, Razzle started a fight. And it's getting pretty nasty, so I broke that up. And then last night, Razzle started a fight again, which I broke that up, and Xena's taken further injury on her ears. So I think Xena sort of accepts she's injured, she's staying away from Razzle for the whole week. I can't keep 2 bitches that are going to be at risk of tearing each other's faces off. They don't want to hurt each other because they want the pack to still be strong enough to hunt, and it's remarkable how quickly these dogs heal. However, it's getting nasty and we don't want it to be that way. So it's like the intelligence seems to be at this level where it's able to kind of override that instinct, mostly because they know that if there's another fight, one of them's going to have to go. And then it's not until I really witnessed it last night, it's not until Razzle really pushed it to Xena that then that instinct overrode and then they engaged. But it was Razzle, when I broke that up, Xena didn't even have Razzle in her mouth. But Razzle had Xena by the ear. One single bite that she didn't let go, and there's the damage. So make no mistake about it, this is what's in your dog. If you have a Jack Russell Terrier, or you have a Dachshund, or you have any kind of terrier, they've got it in them. They've got it in them to do this to each other, and they've got it in them to do this to prey, and they've got it in them to do this to their quarry. So Zena's not really, she's not in fighting form, but you see she's still out here wanting to do it, and they need this, like they need it. They need it for their health, for their metabolism, their blood pressure, their stress levels, the cortisol levels, the oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and caffeines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, vasopressin, all of it. They need this kind of behavior in this kind of environment, and they need to have some companionship with other dogs as well as humans, and these kind of dogs are always with their humans. They do not do well by being left alone. So long as they have this kind of environment, this kind of activity, and they're allowed to engage in this kind of manner, they're healthy, they're happy, they're devoted, they're loyal, they're obedient, they're resilient. And you can catch yourself dinner. These dogs could easily catch my dinner 3 or 4 nights a week if I was in some environment or area where there was decent dinner to catch. So we're going to go out to a place called Storm King in the next few days, because these dogs are now listed for sale. So before they go anywhere, I want to take them out to Storm King. There's some huge rabbit warrens there. They've got 50 plus rabbits occupying them on Crown land in environments like this. But freshwater. There's no poison, there's no baiting, and there's no viruses out there. So we're going to go out there soon for that. And that is when we might catch dinner. They might actually engage with something, catch it, kill it. And every part of that animal will be used, both for human food and for food for these dogs. And for skins even. But they can do this kind of activity and not catch anything, but still be very stimulated. And the other great thing about these dogs is they have double weatherproof coats, so they can go through all this mud, and it's filthy, and then they go through this grass, and then by the time we get back to the car, they're clean. It's great. And so we see just quickly here, so this is more the genes that are in the background in the last few generations, showing more of Patterdale Terrier. He's taller than both his mum and his dad now. And then the rest of them have got that more of that Staffordshire Bull Terrier shining through, with the Dachshund shining through. But then if you look closely, you do see this terrier. There are terrier traits in the fur, in the lines of the necks and the muscles, and in the snout and ears and tail. It's taken me the best part of 5 years to create these litters, to create this litter, and I wanted to create a certain kind of dog. They're working therapy dogs for therapy, for children, adults, and elderly people of all different kinds of issues. Post-traumatic stress, returned soldiers, anxiety, depression, drug problems, all kinds of substance issues, both legal and illegal, behavioural issues, and all kinds of anxiety and disconnection and disassociation kind of ailments or disharmonies within one's psyche, which then shines in one's life, then shines in one's community, then shines in one's society. The reason why these dogs are so good as therapy dogs is because I bring them to places like this and I engage them in activities like this. And the weather, very overcast, it's been raining, pouring heavy rain. It's quite warm. It has been cold, but it's quite warm. It's about 18 degrees now. But it's going to get warm soon, so that's why I want to go and try with these rabbits before it gets any hotter, because I won't do it. I won't let them be at risk of digging up a poisonous snake or be at risk of pythons. Like you have large pythons. There's an 8.5 meter python that lives around here. See, it's a huge snake. It's as thick as that trunk there. And then it tapers off like that actually, so it gives you the heebie-jeebies when you see it around, because any one of these trunks or these branches could be one of these huge scrub pythons. It's massive. I didn't know snakes could get so big, especially not right in the middle of the city. And that's the thing, you don't think that. Same as foxes, same as rabbits, same as hares, same as cats, same as rats. There's a very strong smell. The wind just changed direction just slightly. There's a very strong smell of rat urine. Wind's coming from that direction. But somewhere here, and it can be even those bushes, because the two parents were very interested in looking upwards, and there weren't any birds there, so maybe there's the rats there. And I have seen plenty of rats in this area, plenty of rats. Come here a lot and follow along this creek to the south, and sorry, I beg your pardon, to the north and to the southwest down that way. And yeah, there's a lot of rats, huge amounts of rats, because it's all industrial, all along there, it's all industrial. So again, you see I haven't even moved 10 meters. So come back out the way we went,